Hey everyone. Hopefully this is not going to give me a hard time because it likes to give me a hard time. You're like, just wear your glasses. It's fine. We all know you need them. You think I would, right, huh? Oh my God. It has not got on this fast in so long, you guys. I've already had a few beers because I was partying with my husband. You're like, what? No, because I was at Stitches, you guys. I'll tell you all about that too. Hi, everybody. Hi. I'm serious. I was like, sure. And now I have Airbnbers in there tonight, and I'm sure they're going to like decide to download Netflix or something and ruin our feed. But on the other hand, I'm making money, so let's just be happy. Yarnitarian, all things life, knitting yarn and fiber. All while high on Flamin Hot Cheetos and cheap American beer. Like you sound like a robot. Guess what? That's what I'm going to tell you tonight. I am a robot. Ha ha ha. You're like, wow, you're really funny. You guys, seriously. So I just want you to know, I love working for Stitches. I love working for them. First of all, it's like a regular gig, so that's awesome. And also, I just dropped my lint brush. Oh, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Also, they I've become such a better teacher. Like, I was already a good teacher. You're like, wow, you love yourself. No, I was a good teacher. But they, like, because the knitters, they didn't already like me. If it was hand spinners, I'm not saying all of them, most of them already would have heard of me or liked me. And so probably they'd like cut me a little slack and not be brutal. These people, I go in there and all the faces, I swear. And I am just, I don't even know what to say about how it's just made me mature. It's like really made me mature. The first time that happened, I just want you to know, like, just fear, nothing but fear and wanting to run. Because when I get afraid, I either want to kill or I want to run. And obviously, since, I can't kill them because Stitches wouldn't be happy. But I just want to run. I just want to, like just bolt out the door. And it's probably hard to believe because, you guys, I teach a lot. So the idea of getting nervous really doesn't really exist for me, except every time I show up to Stitches, and I'm not kidding you. Every single time. And I teach there a lot too. Like, I always have 4 classes, always. So, which is very nice of them, by the way. And I just still can't believe how many times I've taught, and I get. It's very difficult. And new things come up all the time because the way, and I'm just going to say, I love the experience of teaching for Stitches and the knitters for making me a better teacher. I will tell you that right now. And learning how to deal, because, usually I would feel like, even like my television show, I was just like, whatever, you don't like it, I'm out, right? That kind of thing, right? And they're like, no, we're out. And I'm like, wait a second, are you sure? Wait, are you sure you don't want to, like, think about that? No, we're out, right? So I've kind of learned that, don't play chicken. Kind of, not really. Anyway, the thing is that, like, the idea of having to have somebody challenge me and me not say anything back it's like made me grow leaps and bounds. I'm not kidding you. Like, for me, actually to be not on the offensive, and that's what it is. It's just made me so much, and it's also made me get to the point, because they don't want to hear my stories. They don't care about me. They just give me the information and just like, that's kind of the thing. And so, and they'll challenge you on facts too. Like, even this weekend I had said a couple of facts that they challenged me on. And this is, I mean, really, this is the deal with the internet now. I don't care what you look up. You're going to have like 15 different opinions. Try and find one source like that agrees. I try to go to like peer-reviewed scholarly articles, or I try to go to some like, Smithsonian, if it's that kind of a fact, Smithsonian, something like that. Right. And, and then I feel confident in re-reporting it. Right. But I don't care what I say, somebody's going to challenge it. And then I just now, like this weekend, I was just like, well, thank you. And then other people started getting mad at this girl. Really mad at this girl. And they were like, that one person said, do you mind? Would you just be quiet? And, which at some point I might have said, not like that. I might have said, can we just move forward? And if you have any questions, then I'll answer them for you afterwards. But this one girl, she was not having any of it, because she would keep saying something, and it was in Nabori where I'm teaching dyeing protein fibers, specifically silk. And so then later on, I find out that the lady actually dyes cellulose fibers. The majority of the time, like, not very often does she dye protein fibers. So then, of course, the question becomes, why are you why are you questioning me and giving me your opinion when I've been doing this for 15 years? And this is how I make my living, but it's okay. I actually didn't mind her. I really liked her. You know, you never know what you're going to learn. So, you know, that's one of the things you don't really want to shut people up because it's possible. And there was one student, you guys, this weekend. Oh my God. Let me just say, so in my hand spinning class, when you get somebody that knows a lot, like you instantly, and from a different perspective than me, right? I have my perspective. Everybody else has their perspective. So somebody like Jan Massey, because there's a lot of things that I've learned from her and we're good friends. You know, or Laura Spinner, people like that. The way that we think is pretty much aligned, right? But when you have someone who you know is super experienced and you have no idea if their ideas are aligned with yours and you're teaching them, they paid to be in your class. So at first, like, because I knew everybody obviously knew her, right? There was just people would walk by, oh, well, you know, they'd say her name and then they'd, you know, give her a hug. And then then the person that was helping me actually knew who she was. And I was like, because I didn't know who she was, but I was, of course, happy to have anybody in my class, right? But it was pretty obvious that she knew quite a lot. And then 3 people's wheel in the class were like being ridiculous. They were not being helpful at all, these wheels. And hey, I know my wheel. I know Spinolution, Magic Craft. Like there's wheels that I know. There's countless wheels I don't know. But for some reason I had a feeling this woman knew, and so I asked her. I said, hey, can you help this lady with her wheel? Because I have a feeling you know. She was like, actually, I'm a wheel mechanic. I was like, oh, damn, how lucky are we? And then the next person, because it didn't happen right away that all 3 of them were like fretzy. And then another one, I was like, okay, so could you do this one? right. And then another one, and I was like, okay, I mean, like literally, can you imagine? Because I'm not a wheel mechanic by any stretch. I mean, I'm not a mechanic. You know, I don't have any of the tools. She has all the tools. She had all the tools. Like, and knew everything about every wheel. It was insane. I was so thankful at that point. And then when she was taking my class the next day, I was like, oh, great. I saw her name. And you have to understand, Jan, I needed a 3-hour class. And I said to Jan Massey, hey, Jan, hey, girl, you got to give me one of your classes. You got to tell me one of your classes because I need a 3-hour class. And I'm long-winded. None of my classes are 3 hours. And so she's like, oh, okay, I will. I fucking love Jan. She's just amazing. She is such a great friend. By the way, we're both going to be at Mid-Atlantic Fiber Arts Festival in June. So if you guys can make it there, we'd love to meet you, love to see you, love for you to take our classes. I'm teaching, they're 2.5 days. It's every other year. So you have to, it's MAFA, M-A-F-A. Just look up M-A-F-A. And Jan's going to be teaching hand spinning, and I'm going to be teaching the dyeing raw protein fibers, which is a great class, 2.5 days. And so we would love to see you there in June 2019. I don't even know what I was talking about before that. Oh, yeah. So this class. So she's in my class the next day. And this woman is tremendously experienced. Jan gave me this class, so it wasn't like this class I've taught a zillion times. I've only taught it once. And this is when Jan was the linebacker and telling people to shut it down, shut it down. It's time to leave. It's 5 o'clock. Up and at him. Out. Just like, and I want to say it was August in Chicago, Illinois. But anyway, so I'm teaching this class, and it was tough. I even said to her, I want to come over and like critique you, but I don't think I can. Right? I mean, she obviously knows what she's doing. I mean, that's the hard thing. So what Jan always says, Jan Massey always says is, because she's been doing it 30-something years. She's like, if I can learn one thing from somebody at this point, I've got my money's worth. So basically, I think one of the things she learned was, it would be great to have a teacher that could fix wheels. Hey, I gave her more than half off of her materials fee for helping. I did. So it was like $30. I gave her like $30. And then the other thing she learned is teachers who don't know their class shouldn't teach. Just kidding. I got the best compliments on that class. That class, like, seriously, like, people usually don't write something nice. They usually just fill it out, the evaluation form. And people, like, filled it out. You're like, well, how do you know what they said? Because you don't read them all. I don't. Because I think I'd have a hard time. Turning it in, to be honest with you. It'd be tough. I'd be like, that would be seriously straining my my integrity, which we're going to talk about tonight. Don't worry. We're getting there. I'm warming up, you guys. I've been having a great time. I've had a couple beers. You know, I don't know. I've been listening to music with my husband. Okay, let's see. Okay, I got to see who's here. Oh, Miss Shelley. You're like, okay, don't do that. That scares us. That's like Beelzebub. And Teresa. Hi, Teresa. And Miss Graver. And So Quilting Girl. And Miss Dahlia. Natalie greets you, Miss. You guys, Phineas Pratt if it wasn't for Phineas Pratt made a shawl out of the yarn that she won here, and Stitches wanted me to bring a display for my yarn class that's the Camp Stitches in New Mexico in June, and Phineas Pratt walked in the classroom wearing the shawl, And I didn't have, because if I knit something or make something or like dye something, it's sold. Like I sell it right away. Like, you know, because I'm trying to make a living here. So, but the funniest part was that I had my husband FedEx, because I forgot, because I was really sick the day before, deathly ill. And anyway, I had my husband FedEx the yarn, and the yarn that he FedExed was the exact same colorway as the shawl. How serendipitous is that? Not. It's like weird, crazy. Like the exact same color. Different yarn, exact same color. It was awesome. So I had not only, so I made her take off, she's getting it sent back today with some yarn. But I had her take off the shawl and she let me use it. And it was a beautiful display. They put it in the middle. Yeah. Roberta took pictures of it. Okay, Renee's crochet design. Hi everyone. It's raining again in Texas. It was raining so much here. My hay's growing really well though. And Susan and Benjamin, hi. And Christine and Andrea and Hexenwald and Elizabeth and Diana Vogel and Vienne and Liz and Zone Thor Gardner. Hi you guys. You know what I love? You guys, you don't know this. We actually have an app that can tell us who it is that like dislikes the page, or dislikes what I've. Every single time we do this, I have one person that hits it. You know, it's probably, there's like 4 people I can think of that would just be like here, just going dislike, but it doesn't show up because I don't let it. Like you can't see it. Only you can see it, but we can't see it. Like if you come in publicly. So you're wasting your time. Well, I'm sorry, but it's just so funny. Jan, you're never listening. Okay, Jan, you guys, Jan used to have a sign and she wrote on it, "Stop talking." So then she would like, when she'd be helping me somewhere, she would hold it up behind someone's head to tell me to stop talking. Allison, Mandolin, Amik, and Susie Q, and Linda. Okay, do you know what that reminded me when I did that? Did you guys ever see House Bunny? She does that. She would like do that when she was trying to remember someone's name. She'd go, and she'd say it in that weird voice. You guys, that was actually a really great movie. You're like, we don't give a shit. We really don't. Okay, so, more on stitches. Just let me complete my thoughts on stitches, which I totally love. And they didn't hire me for the next stitches. And last year I was doing all of them. And I cried. I didn't, but I wanted to. I was like, be a big girl. But then I'm doing camp stitches, and those are very prestigious. But, you know, I've spent all this time, like last year was such a mess for me, you guys. Like, it was so horrible. It started, Jan was here when it started. I just want everybody to know. She, like, put a dark cloud on me, probably. She probably, what is it called? Crop dusted me? Anyway, seriously, Jan was here, but she was leaving. Like I was taking her to the airport in like 10 minutes with the disaster of my life called last year started, but which I'm going to tell you about. But the thing is that I didn't use any of that time. Like my girls could not get me to do anything. They couldn't get me to social network. They couldn't get me to put. I mean, it was all I could do to put sales up. It was really bad. I mean, my whole life was such a mess. And it was until last weekend when I decided it wasn't going to be. Was it last weekend or the weekend before? I can't remember. Anyway, was it last weekend? Who knows? It's a blip. Well, my husband says I don't see chat on YouTube. I see it, Daddy. Thank you. It's you. He doesn't know how. He's so cute. Anyway, so I don't call it, you're like Daddy. Is that what you call him? I actually do. But not when we're sleeping together. I call him other things. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, so my Jan was here, the disaster of my life, and I did not utilize that year well. And I mean, I was around, Nikki Epstein, she used to want to buy yarns for me. Which was really nice of her. She thought my yarns were amazing. This is when I was working for Yarn Market. I didn't have really anything to do with it because I'm just the maker. I'm not the person who makes the deals. But anyway, anybody, Franklin Habit, anybody who you can think of, works for Stitches at some point. And I just would not use my time wisely. And like Lily Chin, I can't even tell you, Lily Chin, I love her. And every time she sees me, she gives me a great big hug. And this time she was like, "Oh, I just want you to know that I recommended you to the San Diego Fiber Arts Guild, Weaving Guild, something." Anyway, you're like, you could at least know what she recommended you to. She could have recommended you for a job at McDonald's, possibly. Anyway, but I haven't used it to put things on Instagram, and I couldn't because my mind blew up. It exploded my head, and when it exploded my head, I like to think of myself as a person who takes action but doesn't I didn't freak out, but I just was mentally exhausted. And I think that's part of the con game is like you tell yourself something like whatever it is. Let's say we're getting a divorce and it's devastating us. And of course, let me just tell you, divorce devastates anybody, even if you hate your husband. because it's just ugly. Like, it's no matter what, it's going to devastate you. Like, I think that you just, like, it's an excuse, not in a way that it's not real, because it's real, but you just use it to just check out. Like, I literally checked out. Like, I only did the bare minimum. I didn't like to apply for anything, for any work. I didn't, and to be honest with you, like, you have to. Like, I don't just, people don't, I mean, to be honest with you, people do write and say, will you? And this, I ignored like 3 of these. Kristen's like, such and such is, and then she tells me like 5 times, and after she tells me 5 times and I don't return their call, then she's just like, well, what's she going to do? Like, she's not a nag. She doesn't need the job. Her husband has a commercial concrete company, right? So she's just like, okay. And, I did a few of those last year. And I'm not that type of person. Like, there are people in this industry that you will pay and they will not show up. That's not me. Right? I am a person, if I don't return your message, it means I didn't get it. But I will have to say that 3 times last year, I got the message many, many times, and I chose not to. I made a bleak effort at one time, and the other times I just didn't even make an effort because my mind was blown. And like, I couldn't even schedule, you guys, last year I booked my flights, 3 of them wrong. Okay. And not finding out until I'm ready to leave. And Kristen's like, it's next week. That's where my brain was. And that I never find out until it's like a few days before or the day of. And then how much that cost you, right? That cost me, easy, $1,200 worth of mistakes. So now I don't even want to book anything without Kristen looking. Like, I book it and you have 24 hours, the laws, you have 24. It's like the law. Somehow, I don't know, lawmakers decided that was, what they were going to, the cap they were going to put on airlines. So you have 24 hours to like rescind your booking, but still, like, seriously, like, that I would do that. And you'd think the first time after getting, hit with like a $400, penalty the first time that I might actually do it right. Nope. That's how my brain was completely mentally exhausted. And before I go into it, let me see if there's anything anybody's saying. You guys are like, you're delay fish. Remember, was it Nemo? Delay fish. Dora, got you. Okay, let's see. Hello, Mary Holmes and Phineas Pratt. I sent your stuff today with some yarn for you. Thank you so much. You have no idea. Lifesaver, by the way. And your stuff was it was beautiful. It looked great. And Pastor Lynn, I just found where you are. Oh, and Madeline Bradshaw, love your Spinolution hopper in the background. They were very kind, Spinolution, to give me the hopper and the Mach 3. And the wheels I don't use that one as much, but I do use the Spinolution a lot. And I do love the wheel. I do love the wheel. They have a little glitches here and there, but for the most part, I love the wheel. So if I was going to sell a wheel, that wouldn't be one of them. It wouldn't, because it just is, it's just good. And so you can set up, Jan taught me this, it's so bulky, it does really great for bulking. And sometimes, when you just can't get the tension right especially something that makes, if you have a 2-pound bobbin on it, sometimes it seems like it's hard if you want to make lace or something to get the tension just right. And Jan taught me about a truss system, and I do a truss system now, and I teach that too, and it works amazingly well. And I think she learned it from Judith McKenzie. So, it's, in other words, it can spin anything I want. So I like it. But you can't take it anywhere. Is my hair, you guys, sometimes my hair gets, you guys, because I just basically rolled, off the bed and into here. Just kidding. But sometimes I've just taken it down. Okay, and then Ms. Shelley said, but I'm stranded in Arizona, haven't been able to get, I'm glad you got your fiber box. Okay, so anyway, first of all, you guys, I'm going to tell you, but you can't get defensive for me, because at first you're going to get defensive for me, and then after you hear the whole story, then you're going to understand what I understand. Are you ready? Let me drink a couple more beers and have a few shots. Just kidding. So it's so interesting too, because people, it's at Stitches that I didn't even know. We're going, oh, okay, well, we'll be there for Tuesday. I'm like, oh, great. Oh gosh, expectations. No, but anyway, so Jan was, first of all, I want you to know my husband is like the twin flame is bigger than a soulmate. I don't know if you know that. But so we went to the psychic, the one where the person was talking about her dashboard, right? And so when they got to me and Sean, like I'm dressed markedly different than the other people in the room. Let's just say that, because I do have a tendency to dress, I don't want to say up, but it might look like up because I wear heels, right? So it might look like up, and I wear makeup. So, and most people, I just have to say, in my age group probably don't, or most people that aren't in my age group probably don't wear stilettos if they're, it's a Saturday afternoon and they're going because there's a psychic there, right? And so So anyway, I'm just thinking instantly this woman's going to hate me because I just don't feel like I fit in. I felt really not like we just didn't fit in, right? So we're like the last people that she gets to too, and the things that came out of her mouth were so incredibly nice. But to me and my husband, like as like they're like, she's like, you're twin flames, which I didn't know. Of course, I have to go straight home and look. I was like, I thought Scrappy was my twin flame. No. But so it's like bigger than a soulmate, right? And then, she just says just really pretty nice, good things. And which just solidifies in my mind, if I think someone's going to say something that's, even though I told you I don't even really know if I believe in any of that. I think some people do have intuition, but who knows? But I do believe that my husband and I are going to be married forever, and and I've always thought that, and I always used to judge whether or not someone was good by the way that my husband is, because that's how good of a person he is. And I used to think that I was not a very good person because I'm really hot-tempered, very difficult to get along with, and I have high standards of everybody around me. I have really high standards. And so, but I hold myself to a higher standard than that. And, things like integrity and doing what you say you're going to do, and being really authentic with yourself about the reality of whatever your situation is. Like what would be an unreal situation? An unreal situation could be like somebody has a boyfriend that's abusing them in some way, and they're saying nice things about them. But then they're saying mean things about them, and then they're saying nice things about them, right? That kind of thing is not being authentic. It's like the reality. So one of these is not true. And because the reality is that every single one of us, including like, Jeffrey Dahmer, is good at some point. So, there's no excuse to stay with someone that's bad by saying they're good, because obviously everybody's going to be good at some point, right? That's just the way it is. The nature of even mental illness is that, typically there's a good side, there's ups and downs, right? So, if I have to listen to that from a friend, I'm probably not going to be friends with them very long, because I can't listen to it, because I'm a problem solver. It's pretty simple, you got to change your life, right? You got to be authentic with yourself. And so it's, that's, I've always felt like I was like in the relationship, I was the one, and my girlfriends used to tease me about it. They'd be like, I don't know how he stays married to you. And I'd be like, I don't know how he stays married to me either, because I'm pretty brutal. I can say pretty brutal things. And, but I don't even have to really yell. Not that I haven't yelled, right? But I don't really have to yell. I can pretty much just give the look, right? And intimidate the whole house. Like, you can't even find a dog. And I used to joke about that. Like, if I get mad, you can't even find a dog. And so Jan was over at our house, and I was going through my my husband comes from, first of all, let me just establish this. My husband comes from a very wealthy family. And so, his mother made some poor decisions, and then 2008 had happened, and there was quite a bit of money. And but most of her, I think, stocks were in were in banks. Specifically one bank. And so in 2008, they got crucified. So, you had a tenth of what you were worth, right? And, think about a tenth. If you're worth a tenth, it doesn't matter if you have 10 million. You don't really have much, right? That's really not 1 million after you've had 10, and that's the kind of lifestyle you live, that you're not going to have very much money left. I mean, for the rest of your life, especially if you're not working. And anyway, so what essentially happened was I found out that my husband had not been telling me the truth for years about our finances, and it wasn't my finances. I was making my own money, and I make plenty of money. Let me tell you, I'm one of the most successful fiber artists in the industry, and I feel so fortunate for that. But I was spending my money because my husband was paying all the bills, always has, so, we're talking about like he's, coming from Rolls Royces and jets, right? And we don't live like that, obviously, because that was his family. He had a trust fund, and but the reality is that especially I knew that after 2008 that there was probably not a whole lot of money, but there was certainly enough. And he didn't tell me. So the whole time I'm like, and I would ask him to. I'd be like, I need to buy a new truck, $80,000. Yeah, you should buy it. Okay, I think I want to buy Jada a little Mercedes for her birthday. You should buy it, because all the money that I make off of my sheep goes back into the sheep, but what's left over, of course, I can spend it on what I want, because I'm not having to spend my money on the bills. And Jan happens to be there. I'm just ready to leave. And I noticed there's money missing out of my account. And so I said something to my husband. And he, of course, because my husband doesn't talk. He doesn't talk. I talk for him. Right? Because I kind of know. So for the last 5 years, I kind of knew that. I mean, I don't know. There were clues, but I would say our property taxes are paid, right? Oh, of course. And then I'd say, I'd always check in. How's your money? Say, everything's great. And then he would say, if he was a little short, he would just say, I need you to sell investments or whatever, and it's going to be a couple days. And I'd be like, okay, so whatever it is that he needed, because what's mine is his, really, because he's. what's been his has always been mine too. So, but my business account is separate because it has to be, because it's my business, right? So anyway, she taken her to the airport, and then I come back and I was like, well, basically what's going on? He's like, oh, I just am a little short this month, and that was not the reality. What the reality ends up to be is that he's been lying for 5 years in our house that is paid for, by the way. There's no mortgage. He had been not paid the property taxes for 5 years. He not paid the property. This is not a blame on him, by the way, because it's coming to me. Don't feel sorry for me. Don't feel sorry for me, because I'm going to tell you the kicker. And I'm like, okay, like, we have sex every day, literally. I'm not kidding you, and we're completely passionate, and like, and one of my whole things is integrity and never lying to the other partner, right? So what happened? So I'm like, and the reality of how bad it was, he would not tell me. He would tell me something, and then I would find out that it was like 3 times more than that. It was really bad, you guys. I found out like 3 days before my Jory's birthday, the one that committed suicide, right? So, and I had to go to Stitches like 2 days after. It was brutal. So at Stitches, it's her birthday, and I've had to leave my house where I realized that I'm tremendously in debt, and I had no idea that and I could lose my house, right? I mean, this is the reality. And so, my husband has terrible credit because he never pays anything. Thankfully, I have really good credit. I mean, there was just this whole mass of like watching my life flash before my eyes, because if I don't have a house, how am I going to make a living, right? I won't have sheep. And where are they all going to go, by the way? And what am I going to be doing with my kids? They just lost their sister, and they're going to lose their house too. I mean, it was really bad. And so, I had to I had to quickly figure out how I was going to start, what was going to happen, because our electricity was going to be turned off on Monday. It was bad. And this, in 1 month, was going to be the 6th year of not paying the taxes. And they'll put your house up for sale for those taxes. So the reality was like bad. It was really bad. Like, that I could lose my house that's worth a lot of money, but I don't give a shit about that money when I won't have a home, right? Because it's just, the whole thing was a nightmare. And so, looking at my husband and just being like, I kept finding out more and more things that he wasn't telling me. And every time he'd say he came clean, he didn't come clean. And so I really punished him for that. I mean, I really, so as I'm trying to fix it, because it was not easy. There was so much I had to do. So my mind is on fixing this problem. How am I going to be able to figure out how to, you guys, you have no idea. Like, I thought it was $20,000. It ended up to be like $200,000. And come up with that when you're a farmer. Like, that was brutal. And I actually managed to do it, but wasn't able. That's not the story. I'm just telling you, don't feel bad for me, because the reality of where I'm at is my fault. I mean, it is. You have to take 100% responsibility. I am 100% responsible for my participation in what happened. So I hate to always bring up Roger, and my husband used to get sick of it. He'd be like, okay, here we go with Roger again. But I'm just going to tell you, like, you have to have friends that just tell you the truth, right? Like, it's hard because my friends, obviously, I'm not going to have good friends that don't like me and say brutal things, right? And so Roger was really sympathetic. And there were quite a few people that were, you ask a guy and they'll be sympathetic for why my husband didn't tell me. Ask a girl and they'll just be like, oh my God, how can you were about to, completely, gut your family, right? I mean, like, there would be no options. Once your house, I mean, I'm telling you guys, with 300 sheep, can you imagine? It was bad. So Roger's like, well, I gotta be honest with you. I understand what happened. And I was like, okay, you're just freaking crazy. Like, that's just stupid. Like, of course you would, because you're a guy, right? And he's like, well, no, because our self-esteems can be really fragile, especially when it comes to being able to take care of your family. And, he's going on with this bullshit, and I don't even want to hear it because I just think it's bullshit. I mean, it really is in my mind. I'm like, there's just no excuse for, like, sleeping with me every day, and there's all these amazing tender moments, like everyday tender moments, and never, and how could you even do that? Like, that's how I'm thinking, right? And so then, life goes on, and Roger actually helps me, he helps me know what's going on as far as if I'm going to be able to fix it. He's like, you're going to be able to fix it, no problem, totally. And me, I don't think I'm going to be able to fix it, because I've never had to fix a problem like this, right? And, but he's like assuring me that our property can generate a lot of income, right? And he's like, you're going to make Airbnbs, everything, it's going to be, don't rent them, because I was going to rent them just to people. He's like, do not do that. That's a mistake. Rent them as Airbnbs, and you're going to make way more money. He said it's going to be tough at first, you're not going to have a lot of bookings. He goes, but I'm telling you, Natalie, that you're going to wish at one time, you're going to see all the money that you lost and be sick that you didn't do it sooner. So I took my husband's recording studios and turned those into Airbnbs, and that was one very smart move that I did. Not that I don't have to work tirelessly to clean them, let me tell you. Although Roger tells me that's stupid and I should have somebody else do it. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so like, he's pretty simple. I gotta be honest with you. And then he would jokingly say things like, Roger would say things like, I gotta be honest with you, Natalie, first of all, there's nobody that's gonna fuck you like your husband does. And he's right. And he's like, I'm just going to tell you, you're never going to find a man like your husband. And I'm like, the man, I'm $200,000 in debt because of this person. And then anyway, we're still friends, and he would always, drop. And then my daughter ends up in a psychiatric hospital, by the way, during this time. So I haven't quite fixed the problem. Jade ends up in a psychiatric hospital, and she goes in, get this, okay? And what she says to them is, I don't want to go home, and I want to kill myself because I don't feel safe at home because my mother intimidates me. This girl has been yelled at once that I can think of in her dry life. So I'm telling you, like, I feel like it's coming from all sides, right? And then my son, who's an alcoholic, and a recovering alcoholic, he's got bipolar disorder, and he's not medicated, right? So it's really tough. So I just literally am thinking I'm like, these kids have a genetic curveball. I mean, I feel like the house was dark and black, and I never wanted to be there. And so I told my husband, you know what? I'm out. Like, I'm dating, and that's just it. And so I started dating. And I was like, the one thing is, I'm not going to be victimized. You've never had a consequence in your life. You're going to be victimized, because I'm going to find somebody I really want you, but who's not a liar, right? Right? There's none, by the way, because everybody has something. Right. And so, and that like built my self-esteem really well. I got to be honest with you. It was like a great thing. At 56, getting a man, no problem, but they're all crazy. I mean, I'm telling you, like seriously, like nobody could make it past the second day, really. I mean, it's that bad. So, and my husband had to eat that, right? And I'd be getting ready and being like, how do I look? Right. I didn't care. I was so pissed off. I didn't care. So, what ends up happening is, like, time goes on, and Roger isn't, if I'm dating, that's one thing, but I got a boyfriend. And then he's like, he was pissed. He was just like, you know what? He was like, he's just mad. And he was like, you need to go. This is when he said, you need to go to the forum. You need to go to the forum. You need to get your life together. You need to stop punishing him. And you need to start looking at what your participation in this is, right? I said, I take responsibility, because there were like little clues. I could have forced him to show me the statements. I could have not believed him, but I'm just not that person. I'm not a micromanager. I'm just not. And so, the forum, I told you last week that he had paid for it. So finally, I figured he's not going to offer anymore. And if someone throws you a lifeline, you better take it. So I don't care what people think of it. I don't care how many people don't like it. I'm going to tell you right now, it changed my life. It changed my life. And so what basically is, when I went there, they have these exercises that they have you do, and one of them is that you have to. They call it rackets, but it's like conning yourself. And I couldn't think of any cons that I have for myself. Like, I didn't even know, I didn't really understand the concept. And you're supposed to write the letter the night before. I couldn't write the letter the night before, because you're supposed to write a letter to somebody who you damaged by your cons. And then, and I just couldn't think of anybody, because I'm pretty darn blunt, right? And then it was like in the middle, the right before class, and then I started, like, things started coming to me. And I was like, well, what if it's a con? What if it's a con that I'm telling myself that Sean's 100% responsible? And what if I have some participation in that via, he actually, the thing that Roger had said originally, that he can't tell you. And then I was like, well, that kind of matches up with that I intimidate my own kids, right? Because you got to think, if then it started like coming to me. My husband feels powerless because it's not that I even have to yell. I don't even have to yell. It's that I have just this persona that is very intimidating. And it's not, I don't mean to do it. It's just become really who I am. It's a protective mechanism. We all have protective mechanisms, right? And so I have this protective mechanism that makes me feel I feel really big. And I will stand up to anybody. That's part of it. But it's all not because it's like I was born this way. It was a way of fending off the world, fending off men from, molesting me when I was young, and like into my teens, and then later on, and then seeing that they always, just fending off, people from abusing you in some way, like victimizing you. We're all, nobody owns victimization. No group, no color, no religion, because we've all had it. We truly have, right? And so, especially when you're young, if you feel victimized, and I got big, I just got really big. My whole it's like a aura. I don't know how it's a presence. It's just a presence. And so, like, very few people will challenge me, even when I've gotten into a couple of scraps, and there's very few people that will challenge me. There are very few people that will challenge me, and I'm talking like even a half of a women's softball team. Like, they'll back down because I just get big, and I'm just like, okay, bring it on, because I'm so crazy. I'm ready to take you on right now, all of you. Like, I just get nuts. You don't even have to yell. You just are dead serious, right? And so I looked at that, if you're dead, if you hang yourself, you're probably feeling pretty powerless. If you're an alcoholic, you probably feel pretty powerless. My daughter goes to psychiatric hospital, and she tells them, I feel powerless. and my husband feels powerless, right? Geez, I mean, at some point you're kind of have to look at yourself, right? That like I run this con, it's just not, and I don't even know I'm doing it, of that I'm just this really like larger than life person that like is so powerful, go ahead and try and take me on. And I am a throwdown bitch, I am. However, you don't want to really bring that home, right? So, and how, I didn't even realize I was doing it, but when you look around you, everybody is afraid. Everybody is afraid of me. And it's not even funny, but Child Protective Services, every time, your kid goes to psychiatric hospital, they're involved. And they are against the family. Let me tell you, they go after you viciously. They loved me. And they actually said that she had a mental illness. She doesn't have a mental illness. She was telling them, and they weren't listening. And I understand why they weren't listening, because I'm so straightforward. They're like, why would Natalie lie? And I wasn't lying. I was telling them I've never beat her. I don't know what she's talking about. My daughter, I don't have to beat him. I don't have to beat him. I don't have to yell at him. I don't have to. I can just be Natalie, and everybody is afraid. And then it made me feel really, and my son, even my son who's in recovery, he would tell me before he was in recovery, he would say things to me about how he was afraid as a child. And I was looking at him going, Connery, like, wake up. Like, are you insane? Like, I would say that to him, because I'm like, I freaking nursed all of you kids. I was like, being afraid, I've never beat you. I haven't. I mean, it's like fascinating to me that you don't have to beat someone. You don't have to scream at them to intimidate them to the point, like they feel completely and utterly powerless. Like, it makes me feel, and then it makes me feel terrible. It makes me feel terrible because I couldn't really look at it. I had no idea. It's so easy, like, for even you guys to feel defensive for me. Like, well, you don't have, it's not your fault that Jory killed herself, and it's not your fault that your husband did what he did. And you're right. But I can't look at what their participation in it. I can only look at who I am, and understand that I've made my family feel powerless without really realizing it, and not ever acknowledging it, and actually looking at them like they're the insane ones. And when you have a cluster in science, there's a problem, and there's a cluster. And so, the evidence is clear that I have been really, it's just so funny, because I see myself as, I'm very, especially right now, I'm pretty wafy. I'm very thin, and I don't look super strong. I mean, I look pretty, I think, vulnerable, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you think that you're appearing to the world. Like, you don't know how could you possibly know how you're appearing to the world, right? And it's just a sad thing. It's just a really sad thing. And so I came home from this thing, and Jade and I pretty much stay away from Jade, because the last thing I need is her feeling intimidated by me. I don't even look at her in the eye. I look at everybody in the eye. But Jade, I just kind of, Sean, when Sean has to say something, he says, if there's something to say, Sean says it, because he's very non-threatening. I have 2 border collies. Well, I have 3, but one of them, Lacey, she can walk in a pen, and the sheep will keep eating. They don't care, even though she'll bite them. She'll bite them if they don't do what she wants. I bring Lad in the pen, and everybody runs. It's not because one of them has bit the sheep more than the other. It's that one has a presence, and one doesn't. And that's like if people raise border collies and use them as sheepdogs, they understand that there's just some that don't have a presence for whatever reason. And my not acknowledging and actually seeing my presence is it's actually a good thing. I thought it was a good thing, because I don't ever have to really yell at my kids. People like, they yell, and even like the Child Protective Services, they're like asking my boys if I yell at them. They're like, never. She never yells at it. Well, what happens when you get in trouble? Well, we don't really get in trouble. Like, we really don't. I mean, they don't. Well, you know why they don't get in trouble? Because they never do anything wrong, because they don't want me to get upset with them, even though I've never done anything to them. It's just crazy. And then, like the guy at the forum was talking about even how he used to look back and reflect on his dad as being this really ominous figure that was like, he wasn't talking to me personally. This is his own story. As he's talking about his dad had this ominous presence, and was like, very intimidating. And that once he actually went to the forum, that's how the whole thing started, that he became a leader, whatever they call him. And he said that I realized that my dad isn't that person, that I was a little kid looking at that person and seeing him as this ominous figure, but he really wasn't. When I looked at him as an adult to an adult, he was a really amazingly soft man, right? But as a child, for some reason, and it doesn't matter what the reason is why your whole family is intimidated by you. But let me just tell you, they actually are. It's not a joke. It's really the truth. And I had to look Jade in the eye and say, hey, I just got to tell you, like, I went to this thing this weekend, and I realized that you're the only one that actually got it right, and they thought you were crazy. And she lives with me. I mean, it was really weird. She went crazy. Like I had no idea where it came from. Like I got pissed off at her because she did a couple really stupid things, and I took her car away and her phone away, and all of a sudden she's in a psychiatric hospital. I'm just like, she's having a temper tantrum. Well, she had that temper tantrum for 4 months in a psychiatric hospital, and I didn't even see her. I couldn't see her. They wouldn't let me see her. And Child Protective Services is like fighting for me to see her because they're like, Jade is mentally ill and she's pulling the wool over your eyes. I mean, this house is safe, you know, and they were awesome, and I'm still in touch with the worker, even though we're not, you know, the case has been closed. But she was so incredible and so helpful and so amazing, but that nobody believed Jade, and it was true. It was really true. I totally see it, and so now I have to. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be exactly. I mean, I'm still the same person. I just have to be really aware of who I am when I'm and pay attention to the way, you know, the way that I'm coming. And it doesn't mean I can't get mad or anything, but I think part of it is just taking responsibility for you understanding and then explaining to the people that it's not that anything's ever going to happen to them, and that you're sorry to be so scary, and that you recognize that you've been really a scary person to them. I mean, and the funny thing is for most people, it's the man that's the scary person. And it's so, you know, I could see it in my kids too, because they're like, they will never tell on each other, ever. I mean, I don't care what happens. You can hear crying and screaming upstairs, and I say, what's going on? And everybody, nothing. I need to know, nothing. Mom, everything's good, everything's good. I mean, everybody's voice changes and everything. And Jory, she used to speak very monotone. I'd say, why are you talking like a robot? And she'd say, because if I have intonation in my voice, you get irritated. And so, like, my poor kids live in this, you know, house in fear of nothing really, me just getting irritated and mad and saying stop it, but that it's like so big. It's like, you know, it's big. That energy is big, that it's really damaged my kids. And I have 2 left, you know, that haven't been damaged by it. Well, they've probably been damaged by it, but that, you know, they're young enough that they, you know, can still graduate high school and still be functional, etc., as so long as we continue on this path. And so, of course, you know, then I had to do other things, like, you know, I wrote this letter to my husband, because that was the whole point. Remember, I told you they said you have to talk, you know. So the way I was discovering it is I was writing this letter, and I don't like to write, by the way, but I was doing it in notes on my phone. So I'm doing it on notes, and I realized the things that I was saying to my husband were things like that I've been cruel, like, you know, and you, after 26 years, you don't want to have to say those kind of words to somebody, that I've been cruel. You know, you can look at easily what my husband did, but if you don't have an environment where you feel safe, you know, and you think the person's going to leave you because you don't have money, because they've never made you feel loved enough, you know, just because someone wants to get frisky with you all the time doesn't necessarily equate to love, right? So if you feel profoundly unloved in general, and then, you know, you don't have any money, I mean, I can totally see, that wouldn't be something I would do. Which gets me to this part. The part of also what I used to just dig into my husband going, because every once in a while, like, I'll have a beer or something, and not every once in a while, I always have a beer, but it will spark me to say something like, I just still can't figure out what you were thinking. Like, what on earth you were thinking. How is this going to get better when you don't get a job? You don't like I'm just like berating him, right? And so the one thing this thing taught me too is that sometimes there just isn't an answer, because he wouldn't answer me, because it's not answerable. Like, it's not answerable, but if you somehow think it should be answerable, you just want to keep punishing that person because they're not answering you. When you say, I don't know why you would do it. And the one thing that they say there is, it happened. Well, why did it happen? It happened. Like, if you're trying to get an answer from somebody and they say, every time you say, why did you do it? They say, it happened. Like, you would kill them. But when someone's teaching you a skill and they say, the reason it happened is because it happened. And it did happen, and that actually, because really when we think about why we did things, sometimes the way we think is so screwed up, but it doesn't even make any sense, so why are we even repeating it? It just happened. And the perfect example is the lady her sister, she was both, they were both young, they were like, I want to say, let's just say 5 and 6, I don't remember, it was something like that, 4 to 6. And she was supposed to walk her sister across the street, and her mother said, make sure you walk your sister across the street. And she said, and I just, for whatever reason, walked across the street without her. And she walked across the street with an adult, actually, and got hit by a car. She said, and she was in a coma for like a month. She's fine today and an attorney and everything. But still, the woman's crying, and she's going, I just don't know why I did that. Like, we punish ourselves, right? Or we punish other people. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I did that. It doesn't matter what someone says to why they did it, because you're not going to, there's nothing that they can say that is going to make sense to you enough to let it go. Even if in the moment they can come up with something that has a shred of truth to it. Like, later you're just going to go, okay, that wasn't basically enough. Why did you do it? And so he looked at the lady and she goes, but I just don't understand why. And he said, it happened. And she goes, but why? She's crying, and he goes, because it happened. And she's like, why? And he's like, because it happened. And then all of a sudden she just stops crying, and she's like, there is no explanation for why I did that, and it's not served me well for 45 years. 45 years I've been carrying that around going, why? And the truth of the matter is, it just happened. And if you could say that about anything someone did to you, if you choose to forgive them, like, it just happened. That just literally cuts the cord. It like no longer has a hold on you. No longer has a hold between the both of you, where you are constantly, you'll forgive, and then they'll do something that reminds you, or they'll do something similar, and then you're just constantly like, I just don't understand the way you think. You just keep, it's like this Groundhog Day. And so the bottom line is, like, I fully 1000% forgive my husband, because I recognize that I am actually, I just have to say I'm responsible, definitely, for the origination of it without, unknowingly. And that the most important thing I think that I learned at that thing this weekend was that I'm an authentic person, but in my authenticity, sometimes I'm inauthentic. But because I'm authentic, most of the, like I would say, I'd always say it, I'm completely authentic. But if I say that enough to somebody, then it doesn't even occur to you that I have participation. Think about it. I basically brainwashed you because I am authentic, right? And you see it, and I'm also telling you it, that for you to think that I've done anything would be very difficult. So even my family believes it. Like, I'm so blunt, and I say, and I say the truth, and I'm so good at, like, emotional intelligence, that it doesn't really occur to somebody that maybe I'm wrong, right? I mean, it's pretty enough for me to just say, well, this is how it is. And so I realize now that in my authenticity, I actually have been a little inauthentic. And I don't know that you can be a little inauthentic. I think you're kind of authentic or you're not. And so taking a complete inventory of all of the cons, like they're cons, telling myself, like my husband, one that he does all the time is that he's not a good writer. And so since this weekend, I was like, really, who told you weren't a good writer? And he's like, no one. I was like, what makes you think you're not a good writer then? And he's like, I just don't think I write very well. And I said, well, Sean, nobody's ever told you you're a bad writer, so don't carry that with you. That's one of those cons that you tell yourself. It's just a con, it's not real. So, I mean, and then I realized we're all made up of them. Our everyday lives are made up of them. I think about all the things I say, like that I have bad handwriting. There's a con. Well, maybe I just don't want to take the time to write nicely, which is probably it, quite frankly. Because I didn't have a hard time, and no one in college ever told me I had bad handwriting. Because I needed the notes, so I needed to write neatly. So, I mean, I just think of all of these things that every time they're starting to come out of my mouth, it's like it's a total racket. It's a racket, and we're all racketeers. And so what's the answer? Because we're all of these things, right? We're always going to miss things, and we're always going to tell ourselves stories that aren't real, and we're always going to have rackets. And the answer is that we're just aware of what they are, so that we don't have to blame other people for what we're doing, right? Just if you took 100% responsibility for every single thing that happened between you and the downfall of a relationship in somebody, imagine if the whole world lived that way. Like, we wouldn't have any war. I mean, I'm not being ridiculous here, but we really wouldn't. We wouldn't have any wars. We wouldn't have anything, because it's always about, it's always about people being right. It's always about people being right and people not taking responsibility, and, we see that in the media. We see that, in our politics. We see that, in each other. And, of course, nobody ever wants to be wrong, and nobody ever wants to take responsibility. And I think that if we do that, that doesn't mean we're still not going to, I'm still the same triggers. Like, Jenny irritated me. I was coming home from it, and I have all this great knowledge, and I can't wait to put it to good use. And Jenny, irritated me on the phone, and I was just totally pushed my button. She totally pushed my button, and I was like, it's amazing that these buttons are going to always be there, and you just have to quiet them. You just have to realize it's a button, and then, you can let it go. And I think it's all about making your life better. And so there's this mother and daughter, and I thought they were friends. The mother looks really young, and the daughter doesn't look old. But the daughter thought, that she goes, people could always say that, and she was a little irritated. And that's part of the story. That's part of the racket. Her racket is that she doesn't realize that we're not saying she looks old. We're saying that her mother looks young. And then once you know that she's their mother and daughter, you see it. But before you know it, you don't see it. You just think there is an age difference, but that they're friends. Because I have, Jenny's my friend, and she's 43, and I'm 56. So, if her mother had her when she was, 19 and 20, it's not like, 40 years. I had Roni when I was 45. So I mean, there's a pretty big age difference between me and my son, right? So but anyway, so that's my whole story, is that I've had to build my life back, and so it wasn't until last weekend that I realized that I have made bad use of my time at Stitches, and I haven't, connected with all these people that I should have, these teachers that I've seen all the time that are really well known, and that I could network and I could do the good work that I want to, and about agriculture and promote agriculture, because it's the love of my life, really, besides, Scrappy, is that preserving agriculture, because it's taking such a huge hit, and the demonization of it just kills me, because we need farmers, and truly, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. And I didn't use that. I didn't take those opportunities because I was too busy, whining and blaming and being angry and letting my head be spaghetti, and, instead of tending to, sweeping my own side of the street. And so that's what I'm doing now. Today I applied at 6 different places for, teaching, and I just, I put my VIP retreats back up because I stopped doing them because I didn't want people at my house. And but it's awesome because now we have, the cottages, the Airbnbs to put people in. And so there's these, I just made a decision that I'm not going to stop being a crazy person and saying how shitty my life is, because my life is a lot more shitty when I keep saying it's shitty and I don't do anything about it, and I don't look inwards and see what participation I had in the downfall of my family. I was, here I am, leaving my house 3 days a week, and I'm looking at them saying, my house is dark and horrible, I don't want to be here. Well, my house is dark and horrible because I'm making it dark and horrible. And that's the bottom line, because the second I decided it wasn't dark and horrible, I walked in, I was like, oh gosh, it's so nice in here. I'm telling you guys, it's insane. And I just crazy at my age that this could happen to me, but I'm glad it happened. Anyway, so I'm gonna read what you write, but don't say, but honestly, I just want you to know, it's not that I don't think that every person has responsibility, the other people, but they have to take responsibility for what they do. It's not, it's not for me to decide. I'm not objective. And, and it all stemmed from me. In Bug's life, they say, when you're the boss, it's always your fault. That's the truth. So it's better not to be the boss, I guess. Otherwise, you're going to have to take, you're going to have to take responsibility for shit. Okay, I'm reading. Okay, let's see. Hey, everybody. And then Pam says, oh my God, no way, this is too strange, similar to what I've been going through. She said she's sorry. And then Pastor Lynn says she has a friend who's undeniably psychic and she doesn't understand it, but can't deny it. Okay, I'm going to go with you on that. I'm going to believe you on that one. And then Christine said I'd be taking laps around the anxiety pool. And then they're just saying, and Miss Shelley's saying, she says, sounds familiar. And then Phineas is saying, have you checked out ACA, Adult Children Now About Alcoholics? And then Pastor Lynn says, I wish we could talk. I just wrote a whole long thing and it wouldn't post. You're learning, we're all learning. Life's a journey. That's right. That's right. But the most important thing is I see what I've done to my family. You guys, even just acknowledging it to Jade, she talks to me now and looks me in the eye. She hung out downstairs today. That kid never hangs out downstairs. She hung out downstairs and was visiting with me, and she's went and picked up stuff from Roberta that I brought back from Stitches because Roberta drove and I flew. And she's helpful, and but my kids are always helpful. If I tell them to do something, they do it. But that's not really a compliment anymore, right? Now I realize, of course they do it. They're afraid of you. They never argue. You'd never see one of my children back talking to me ever, never. And then Pam says, thank you for standing up for farming, and of course. And then Nancy says she's glad that I'm finally sorting things out. And then, she wants to follow suit. There are some things I will never forgive. Well, Nancy, but you have to, that's, your journey, but I'm going to tell you right now. This thing was the best. So Sean's going to it this next weekend. And he's going to it in LA. And so I'm, really excited because you can't, it'd be really hard to change our relationship if he didn't see, his stories. Like I'm telling you, the one about, I'm not a good writer. Which is, because I'm I want you to sext with me. And he's like, because I always do. I'm going to get attention, because that's the hard thing, too, is that, when you've been married for that long, and he, in his defense, he was like, well, I used to do those kind of things. And when you, buy you like flowers and things when we were young and you didn't like it. And I was like, yeah, that was then. That's not now. Now I want to be paid attention to. Then I had all the attention that I could, I didn't need attention. I was getting attention, plenty of attention. But I'm 56 now. So, I want attention. And if I don't get it from him, that was the thing. I used to tell him, if I don't get it from you, believe me, all I have to do is put in Tinder and I'll get it. And I would. And the poor man, I mean, he had to, and that's like his, and it's really, the whole thing has been really very difficult for him. He's had to, I mean, I'm serious. It's been terrible. But it's the only way, what happens is you have to have some way of feeling powerful, and that's the only way I could feel powerful, is that I was with my husband because I chose to be, not because I had to be. Because, if you think you have to be, oh my God, that's so powerless. But for me to have, be able to have dates, as many as I really would want, it was like, honestly, I'd be like, okay, see, it just was mean and cruel and horrible, but it made me feel better. So would it make me feel better now? I have the same button, so if I don't feel it would occur to me, but because I had to come clean on everything with my husband. Like, I have to come clean with everything. He has to come clean with me, right? And come clean with my family. And so once you do that, and he has my passcode to my phone, and so then the button's there, but I have to be like, it's going to pass. The feeling's going to pass, and you have to, that's my thing, is I want to bail out. My defense is I just like pull the ripcord, right? And so I have to not do that. I just have to learn that it's a really bad behavior that I've learned in the last year, and it's hurtful and it's damaging. Imagine, the children, they don't know if their mother's going to leave or not, right? So on top of it, even if they're afraid of you, they want you there, and they want their parents to stay together. And we're going to stay together. My husband and I will be married, and I mean this, for the rest of our lives, unless he doesn't want to be married to me. And of course, something, anything can happen. You never know. But from my perspective, we would be married forever. Because there is really nobody. I've met a lot of men, let me tell you, in my lifetime, and there's just nobody. There's just nobody that also is so kind. He is so kind, and you don't get it all. You don't get like a firecracker who is a super go-getter, that's super kind and super mellow and will always be around for you. Like, that's for me, is like, I essentially want someone, I want him around all the time. And, if I'm going to ask for that, then, a super successful doctor is not going to be there all the time. And then you don't punish them for not being a super successful doctor. It's stupid. It's like simple stuff. And so anyway, that's my thing. And now I have to work. That's the thing, is now I didn't have to before. But I have to now. I really have to, I have to feed the animal, they eat 1,000 pounds of food a day. And on top of that, I have to pay the electricity. That's 1,000 a month. I mean, it's really crazy. It's almost $10,000 a month to keep the farm going, and I have to figure out how to make that. And it's really challenging, but I'm up for it. And especially with the Airbnbs, it takes a huge chunk of that out. Like, if we didn't have that, there would be no. We just have to sell it. But that's the huge coup. And then I happen to live in the wine country of Temecula. Temecula is a destination and it's never slow. So I'm really thankful for that. I'm just so thankful. Otherwise, you wouldn't be talking to me right now. You're like, well, we actually aren't. We're chatting, you're talking. Anyway, so that's my whole, why I've been saying, I've been saying it over and over and over, but I won't say it anymore. Because I got it. I got this. I got it. It's almost summer. It's getting my Airbnbs are almost full. They're full almost all the time. It's crazy. And then Nancy said that she thinks that his go-to Sean being quiet is his go-to tool. Because you don't have to take responsibility for anything. And then this, he'll have to talk. She's right. And then Teresa says they don't talk back out of fear and respect, or both. They respect and fear me. But they don't have any reason to. I've never hurt them. And then Jan says I have great kids, which, I do. But that's because they would never talk back. They would just they would never talk back to me. Never. Never, never, never. They would talk back to their dad, but they will never talk back to me. Ever. Not even a nasty look, nothing. They just close their mouth and look me dead in the eye. And I say whatever I need to say, and they just look me right in the eye. And I say, got it? And they say, got it. And I say, okay. And then I get in and get out. And then Allison says, it just happened to something I need to work on. I'm always in my head, and it just gets worse and worse. Allison, I'm telling you, the landmark forum, I don't give a shit what you stop. I don't care. I am not a person, I'm telling you right now, I grew up with Est, and I grew up with Hare Krishna, and I grew up with all these things, and I'm telling you, and this is an offshoot essentially of Est. For whatever reason, Est isn't in existence anymore. But I don't give a shit what people say. They don't do anything but make you look. They don't even make you. They just facilitate you looking at yourself. That's what it is, introspection. They facilitate you looking at yourself, and the way that it's easy to look at yourself is there's other people doing it, and you're seeing the pattern. You're seeing what he says to them or she says to them, whoever the leader is, and it's I'm telling you, it's freaking awesome. I mean, it just is. You know, at first you're like listening and you hate it, and then all of a sudden you're like learning so much. Like it's unbelievable. And there's people in there that'll that say, you know, that are talking, and you can see their problem so clearly that it's irritating. You just want them to shut up. But in that, you still learn something. It's crazy. It's really nuts. It's nuts. But I don't care what anybody says about it. I freaking have learned so much, and my whole family is going to be better for it. And then Teresa says, my friend always would tell me it is what it is, which is kind of like, you know, it's a similar thing, but it happened. It happened. Like, instead of like, God, because I can't even tell you, because I always want an answer for everything. Give me an answer so I can understand it. Well, it's not understandable if it's that egregious, right? There's no way to understand it. It's just going to be this circle of, I don't understand, why did you? And they're going to be like, I don't know. And you're going to be like, but you must know. They're going to be like, I don't know. And I know, because I've been in this with them over and over and over. And then Allison says she lost her mom in April, and she always said everything happens for a reason. I don't know about that. I can't grasp it. I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm still like hanging on that one, because I know that people say that, but I'm not sure. And then Mary says, hang in there, and I'm on a quest to make my family's life better. I am. And then Amber says, I've got this. Yes. It's been hard. Let me tell you, it's been really hard. And then Pastor Lynn says she went to S back in the day. Yeah, he doesn't really seem, the guy Werner Earhart, he doesn't seem to really, I think this is different than S, but it really does. I mean, this morning I actually, like I said, I applied it like 4 or 5 things, I can't even remember, and which is really unusual for me, because I just got back from stitches and I'm exhausted. I mean, I'm standing there in heels. You know, you're like, well, you don't have to wear them, but I'm standing there in heels for 4 days for 9-10 hours, and it's hard because you're balancing in your feet. The heels don't hurt really, but it puts all your weight on the balls of your feet. So that's the hard part, is that I've got 120 pounds on the balls of my feet all day long. And then, it's tiring because you're kind of balancing. You have to need to balance. And then, of course, I'm talking. My voice was really hoarse yesterday. I sounded like a frog. But, from teaching, there's a lot of people. There's a lot going on. And, and I even live stream from there, which is also another thing. Like, I'm really already trying to be better. I told Kristen I was going to be better. I wasn't going to try, but I was going to be better. I was going to be better, and then I was going to, start, taking responsibility for my own business, and, really not just letting it just languish. I'm just letting it status quo. I'm not trying at all. And that's not good for me, nor is it good for Ready Method, especially because I want it to be in the public domain, and I need to, I need to not do that to it, because there's a lot of value in it. And I don't mean monetary, I just meant informational. There's tons of value in the information that I can share with people to make their lives easier when it comes to something that's so abstract, and so many people have a difficult time understanding, but everybody professes to be an expert, and nobody ever calls them on it because it's something that most people don't know the reality to. I'm serious when it comes to protein fiber dyeing, right? So I don't know, that's like part of my mission. And the agriculture, like, really, we hit the 501c3, the charity, and that also, will benefit, it'll benefit me in the way, first of all, it will make me feel tremendously like I've given back. And that's something I think that all of us, and that I probably haven't done enough of in my lifetime. I've, pretty much focused on me and my family, and not, given back enough. So I'm just going to be a better person, and that's just the way it is. And I'm going to, it's not making amends with my family, but like taking accountability for the person that I am, and trying just to be better, which is tough. It's tough because all those buttons are still there, believe me. Anyway, but I love to hear from you guys. So let's see. And then Pastor Lynn says, I hate saying it happened for a reason. I get it. And then Nancy said, what about writing a book, Natalie? I actually want to write a writing method book. I want to write one. It'll be super easy. And then whatever will be. That's just true. Yes, I agree, Nancy. I agree 1000%. What's Effexor? What is Effexor? I don't know what that one is. Is that a drug? I think that's a drug. I'm looking up to see what it is and who said something. But anyway, and then Ms. Shelley says she would read it. So anyway, so next week, the good news is, okay, so just to let you know, so I'm going to get going in a minute, because I've had, like I said, I had a few beers. But next week, we're getting back on the fiber track. Don't forget that tomorrow at 11 o'clock, I'm going to be doing the hand spinning. So I'm going to be doing that live, and that's through Reading Method, right? And it's part of our knit along, right? Our spin along. It's our die along, spin along, die along, knit along. So that'll be the last portion before, and then the next week we start knitting. So I'm so excited. So we're doing that at 11 o'clock, and then it's live at Pacific time. And let's see. I think that I'll do a giveaway tonight, but it's going to be. I think I want to do a fiber. So let's think. I don't know what fiber. It might be. So if you want to be in the drawing, you have to want raw fiber, because I have a ton of raw fiber. So you guys, if you saw, if I turned that camera around, you would just die. I should take a picture and put it. It's ridiculous. But I'm sending people's packages out, so there will be a lot less, but then I just bring more in. Anyway, I shouldn't complain about having too much fiber, huh? But I actually am kind of complaining about it. I need to get rid of it. So if you want to be in this drawing, you have to, you're funny. And then Fiddy says, write a book. She commented on, okay. I don't know what that is, but I'll look. And then, I can't find it. I'm still looking, Ms. Shelley, I'm still looking. I'm still trying. Don't worry. And then Christine says she's watching tomorrow. So anyway, you guys, it's free. The information is free on Reading. So it's facebook.com/groups/Reading Method. And we'll be streaming it on that. And then afterwards, it'll be recorded to YouTube. And then I'm pretty excited because then I'm gonna give links out. Did I give links to YouTube? But I thought we're gonna knit to get. Oh, I wanted to do it like a hangout, but I think I already put the links. I'm gonna have to check, and if not, we'll do a Google Hangout and I'll send the links out to people. But I think we already put them up. You're like, stop your conjecture. I have no idea what I'm talking about. And so if you want to be in this drawing for raw fiber, put your name in here now in the comments, and then I'm just gonna randomly so I'm gonna wait. Okay, raw fiber, hell yes. Okay, however's nice. Okay, I'm watching tomorrow. Okay, and I didn't know Finny Spratt love fiber. Okay, so here. Actually, it is Christine Kuhn. It's Christine Kuhn, Christine 1, and I swear to you, I would never do that, especially since I'm authentically being authentic. I'm definitely going to have something started knitting by next week because I'm all over this. I'm actually all over it, especially after being at Stitches and seeing everything. So you guys, Christine won the pound of raw fiber, and I hope to see you next week. It's going to be really exciting, and I'll talk more about, I don't know, whatever's going on. I'm going to share a bunch of goats, and God only knows what's going to happen. I mean, I'm having the Airbnb people, and that's always, let me tell you, that's always an experience. And there's always stories. I don't tell you all of them because I have other things to talk about you. But you guys know I love you, and I will see you either tomorrow or I'll see you next week at 6 o'clock. And thank you so much for joining me. You know I love you and how much I appreciate it and how good you guys make me feel. And I love that I shared my story with you because it actually kills me when I talk to people, and I'm always saying my life sucks. And I know they're like, how could our life suck? And you're like, I'm sure people right now are thinking, well, it's only your house you almost lost. But you guys, it's my children that are affected. That's the part. But anyway, okay, I will see you next week. Love you guys.